Welcome to Module 3. In these series of lessons, we're going to cover some higher level operational metrics and operational concepts. So follow along and learn about inventory management. We're going to talk about supplier management, supply chain management, and we'll also cover some really high level insider tips and tricks as they relate to operations. Let's get started. Proper inventory management is important to your account health within Amazon. You want to provide Amazon's customers with a stellar shopping experience, and one of the key components of that is having inventory to sell. I look at it as a dance, and Amazon is your partner, but you want to lead the dance. Let's look at some Amazon inventory dashboards, and I'm going to show you some really neat tips and tricks to optimizing your inventory and mastering this dance. Inventory management is something that pretty much all sellers struggle with. It's no joke, and it can oftentimes feel very overwhelming. It's really critical to your success. You've gotten to the point where you have gotten a product live, you've ranked it, and it's selling. One of the fastest ways to trip up and to lose customers is to not have the product to sell or misstating what your product can or can't do. Now, not having a product to sell will make your BSR climb, and it will you're going to have to work really hard to get it back to where you want it. On the flip side, having too much inventory locks up cash flow, and it also is discouraged by Amazon with their storage fees. Amazon doesn't want to be in the business of storage. They want to be in the business of turning over inventory, and quickly. Now, inventory management is not the sexiest thing out there. Oftentimes, it gets overlooked until you have reached the point of no return, or what I call critical path. This is the inventory dashboard within Seller Central. Now, it's a lot better than when I got started on Amazon, and this part of Amazon has come a long way, but it isn't perfect. Now, within the inventory tab on Seller Central, you can click on Manage FBA Inventory, and from within that, you can check the listings and you can set replenishment alerts for them. Now, at a minimum, I want you to go through and look at each and every item that you have, look at the restock date, and set those within the Amazon Seller Central platform. You can also get inventory alerts within Manage FBA Inventory. This is a really basic tool that Amazon offers, and it works when you're initially starting out and you need to be prepared. It takes in consideration your inventory turns and your sales velocity. Do you remember the teeter-totter at the playground? Well, that's kind of what inventory is. In accounting, your inventory turnover is the measure of the number of times your inventory is sold or used in a period such as a year or a month. Now, this equation for inventory turnover equals the cost of your goods sold or your net sales divided by your average amount of inventory. Now, if you don't have enough inventory, you're going to miss sales and your BSR will go in the wrong direction. If you have too much inventory, your money will be locked up and you will have high carrying cost. The Amazon per item storage fee is based on the space that the item takes, and there's a possibility if you have too much inventory that you'll be facing long-term storage fees. I had a boss when I worked for GE complain after he walked through a warehouse that all he saw was dollar bills on the outside of each box. This was his not so gentle reminder to have just-in-time inventory. Now, this is kind of tough to have just-in-time inventory if you're not the actual manufacturer, but there are steps that you can take as a seller. Here are some of the solutions that I have used to mitigate inventory issues within my Amazon accounts. Now, these tips have helped me to have more control of my inventory and to manage my out-of-pocket costs to Amazon. So here are some of my insider tips. These are some of the solutions that we have used for better control of our inventory cost. Variations, non-Amazon warehouses, split shipments, and pricing. Let's go into a little bit more detail on each. So adding product variations. Here's an example. These are Nike Jordans, and they're ranked right now at a little over 1,000 in shoes. So those are moving. Yet, if I want them in size 8.5, I only have 2 color choices. The rest are out of stock. Adding a variation is a really easy way to maintain your rank and to keep your product page alive. Adding multiple variations because of a particular size or color or even style is really popular. You will not show out of inventory if you're offering other variations. Now, your conversion might not be as good with the less popular color choices, but it keeps the listing on life support versus having it be dead in the water if it's totally out of stock. Alternative warehouses. We use this for our business, and it helps with inventory management as well as with pricing from our suppliers, and I'll explain. Prior to starting with private label, I would buy truckloads of closeout inventory, and I would use a warehouse partnership as temporary storage. Now that I'm doing private label, I still like to use my warehouse partnerships. Now, oftentimes, when I place an order, I usually like to maintain 3 months of supply at FBA when I restock. This provides a cushion and it avoids excessive storage fees. And let's face it, Amazon storage fees are good, but they are not the best in the industry. Because you know what? Amazon doesn't want a warehouse. They want to sell. In 2012, just as an FYI, Amazon warehouses were so full that they temporarily stopped inbound shipments. Sellers were sending in too many long-tail items, and those items were taking up too much space. I personally think Amazon has started to address this issue and fix it because now there are inventory limits within Seller Central. So as a workaround, as a private label seller, I have my supplier split, maybe a 6-month order where I get a large volume discount, and I have half of it go to Amazon and half of it go to my third-party non-Amazon warehouse. Then what I can do is I can restock from my local warehouse and have it arrive at Amazon much quicker. You could also use less than truckload pallets, as that rate is extraordinarily affordable domestically. How do you work around this as a private label seller? Now, when I go to my supplier, sometimes what I'll do is I'll place a 6-month order and get a really large volume discount. And I'll have my supplier split that order in 2. I'll have half of it go to Amazon, and I'll have the other half go to our local, warehouse. You can have them restock from the local warehouse and have the items arrive much quicker to Amazon than shipping it internationally from China. You can use less than truckload pallets when you're shipping domestically, and that rate is extraordinarily affordable. Now, what I do is I provide my third-party warehouse with the pallet labels for the inboard shipments to Amazon, because what winds up happening is their square footage charge is usually much less than Amazon's to warehouse my products. I do know a few other sellers that use this method because it's a great strategy. Now, if you happen to have watched the advanced product marketing course taught by Mike McClary, he kind of alludes to this strategy. He ships cartons of goods directly to Amazon's Vendors Express using his third-party warehouse. I have a warehouse that's local, and I've talked to the owner, and they kind of have the system down pat for what I expect them to do. They pretty much know that I'm just parking my goods in their space, and when I'm ready, it'll move from their warehouse to Amazon's warehouse. If you do decide to pursue this, I want to make sure that you are comfortable with the security as well as the insurance at the warehouse partner that you choose. If you are out of the country, ask the warehouse for some referrals that they can offer so you can get some feedback on their warehousing operations. Once you pull inventory from your off-site third-party warehouse, you now reorder it from your manufacturer. This is a great strategy for people sourcing internationally. It isn't uncommon for delays to happen on cargo ships or possibly to have longshoremen at the ports, go on strike. This option gives you greater control and more of a buffer. Now, if you remember, there was a longshoreman strike on the West Coast in 2014. This put a huge delay on the holiday shopping season, and a lot of products didn't even arrive until after the fourth quarter. This is a strategy that you can use, and you can incorporate it into your product mix for your most popular products. If you are an international seller, you are going to pay more for warehousing that is closer to port cities or closer to a major metropolitan area. The United States is a big country, and the interior states often offer less expensive warehouse costs per square foot than like a major city like New York or Los Angeles. I've attached a storage calculator in the notes of this lesson if this is something you want to consider. As I mentioned, Amazon has a really basic inventory management dashboard. It's better than nothing, as I can attest, there was nothing when I started on FBA. Now, the third-party alert systems are a little bit more advanced than what's available within Seller Central. There are two great sites to help sellers to do this, and those are Cash Cow Pro and Managed by Stats. So how do these work? What you do is you enter your lead time from your manufacturer. That entails how long it will take your manufacturer to actually produce the product. Then you enter the average time to ship. This is essentially the longest lead time. So if you opt to split your shipment and take a portion of it, via express over air, that will only help to some extent. But if you're making your restocking decisions, you want to base it on, the slow boat from China. As you sell, what will happen is you'll get alerts based on your restocking window. One of the cool additional features that is built into Cash Cow Pro is that both US and Chinese holidays are already factored in. I want you to stop. At this point, I want you to pause the training and set up your inventory turn alerts. Do you feel like you have a better handle on inventory management? You should. Now we're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about overselling. I want you to get an idea of how you can anticipate high selling season for within your niche. And I don't just mean, Christmas and holiday shopping. Think about your target market. If you sell backpacks for children, you should have extra inventory ready to go heading into July, because at that point, families are starting to plan their back to school shopping. Mostly everyone's sales pick up during the holiday season, but there's also other high selling seasons in which your stock might need to keep up with demand. If you're not sure of when those other high sales seasons are, check out your business report from the previous year and look for spikes in sales. Don't be afraid to reach out to your customers as well with surveys asking them what time of year they're most likely to be shopping for your product. Here's another tip. You can use Google Trends to search for what time of year people are most searching for your product. Let's look at the keyword of Halloween costumes. If you go onto Google Trends, you can see the data from 2004 to 2016 year to date on Halloween costumes. Do you see the pattern? Let's slice this down to a single year. So let's look at this data. When do you want to make sure your inventory has landed in the Amazon warehouses? If Halloween costumes was my keyword, I'd want to have it in place by the end of July so that there would be no issues and I take full advantage of the peak of the season for this keyword. Okay, pause the training. I want you to stop and check out Google Trends for your primary keywords for each of the products that you offer. Take a snapshot of each keyword and work backwards from the analytical. Now, the Google search will post that information onto your Google Drive because we're going to revisit it when we go back to the outsourcing course. We're going to cover one last thing regarding inventory that can possibly lead to an account suspension. If you are shipping anything via fulfillment by merchant within your account, it is of utmost importance that your FBM inventory numbers are accurate. If you oversell and have to cancel orders because you don't have inventory, this can put your entire account at risk. Now, this is not applicable if you're an FBA seller and you go out of stock. Pat yourself on the back. We covered a lot within inventory management of operations. It can feel like you need a crystal ball for inventory management, but don't source that off of Alibaba just yet. All right, just kidding. The reality is that you have to wear a lot of hats as an Amazon seller, and inventory management is often overlooked until it becomes an issue. Most large corporations have multiple people that just work on inventory management. Right now, you know more than most do about inventory management, and you have a few tricks up your sleeve to have greater control of your inventory. We've covered inventory dashboards, setting up low stock alerts. We've talked about inventory turns, using third-party warehouses, and even covered using Google Trends to have greater predictions for sales spikes and to prevent overselling. You've also entered your inventory turn information into the platform of your choice. And you've checked out Google Trends for your primary keyword.